You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru at. Tümer gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Cuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
You ready to go? Welcome back, everybody. Episode 97 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. I am Sinan Schwarting, live from New York City, and we're back. And back with me is, of course, everyone's favorite co-host, coming in from Belgium, Kaan Bayazit, everyone! How you doing, sir?
Doing fine, thanks. Just as you introduced me, my dog started being loud, but I don't think you can hear her. She heard some noise. But all good, thank you. How about yourself? Well, happy 2020!
Indeed, yeah. It's a New Year's episode. You missed our Christmas special, so you missed the bell. I don't know if you heard you listened, but so we had our Christmas bells in there, of course. But so yeah, for the new year, of course, we have not much football to talk, but there's still a lot of news, of course. And on the personal front, yes, I'm okay. Another year, you know, not too much to talk about, honestly. A nondescript celebration. I did drink some champagne, which you know, you never go wrong. But how about you?
Well, what did you have for big Christmas dinner and then for the New Year celebration? Anything special? Anything fancy?
Yeah. Well, this isn't. My apologies to my Muslim brothers and sisters out there who are going to hear this, but I had a giant smoked ham, which was delicious, really quite nice, but not, you know, it was very haram, I suppose, if anyone's taking notes out there. But how about you?
On Christmas, we had what we always do on Christmas, which has been a tradition since I was a little boy. We did a gourmet, which basically just, I don't know, I mean, gourmet has a different meaning in English, I guess. It's more like a way of cooking, I think.
Gourmet just means like fancy, kind of, you know?
Oh, okay. So, well, what we do with gourmet is it's just like tiny little meats, and we bake them on like a plate and like sit around a table and like kind of like when you go to one of those Japanese restaurants where they cook the food for you, basically. Sure. Kind of. You could compare it a little bit to that, I think.
Okay.
So that's just something we've always done with the family. We back in the day we used to do that with the entire family in a big. Party room or whatever. Now we just do it with the more intimate atmosphere. Just me, my mom, my stepdad, Kim, and then obviously my son.
Maybe a kind of cross between like the Japanese grill and like tapas, sort of like little plates.
Well, it's just all little sausages, bits of like a string of bacon.
You were also not a real Turk, in quotes. This holiday.
Oh no, I am made of plastic for sure. And then on New Year's Eve, we always spend that at Kim's family, and that's just like a. What do we have? I think stoofvlees, fries, croquette. Just typical Belgian stuff, really.
Sounds
so yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, I honestly don't really know what the sort of typical American Christmas dinner is supposed to be. I know, obviously Thanksgiving is pretty well laid out, the turkey and all that, mashed potatoes, etc. But so I know a lot of people do pretty much the same thing again for Christmas, but I mean, honestly, it's a great meal. I like it. I can see the logic in doing it more than once a year, but they're a little close together. And so then I know the ham thing is common as well. So we just kind of went with something that people do just to sort of see what all the hubbub was about.
A ham sounds good though. I mean, like, is it like one of those hams with honey?
Yeah,
around it
exactly.
and
The
stuff?
big kind of,
Oh.
yeah, exactly. It was delicious, honestly. It was really quite good. But
That does sound appetizing. I actually didn't have a proper dinner today, so you're making me hungry. Damn it. Actually, I did it to myself because I was the one who started this
yeah,
conversation.
your fault. Totally your fault. But yeah, let's get back on topic. We do have a bit of football here to talk about. One match, actually, just the one, which lately we've been like stacking them up. So it's a kind of refreshing, a breath of fresh air here that we're only having to discuss the one. Of course, we're going to be talking about Beşiktaş's match against Gençler on December 27th. And it was a big match, I think, going into it, because it was vital that we come away with 3 points. No exceptions, no 1 point, no silver linings on it. Beşiktaş was in somewhat dire straits, having dropped results against Yeni Malatya, and then, of course, Fener in the big derby. Not to mention the European debacle and the match against 24 Erzincanspor, which just sort of compounded the misery, although we didn't have anything really riding on either of those matches. But so anyway, going into this match, yeah, things were not looking good. Kaan, before we talk about the match itself, did you have any, can you remember how you were feeling going into this match? I imagine you may have been a little nervous, like the rest of us.
Well, just disappointed really that Burak got injured again.
Yeah, that was just pre-match that had been announced, basically, right?
Yeah, and well, I felt kind of comfortable that we would win the match, especially coming out of the. I just knew that even if we would be too incompetent to do so, that we would get help just as a form of compensation, from the screw job.
Well, yeah, and we had mentioned
the VAR controversy in the derby, really, where we got screwed over by VAR. I think I still stand by the fact that I think Fenerbahce deserved to win the match.
Yeah, no doubt.
Based on
they were fairly
on the spirits. Yeah, the spirit they showed compared to our very disappointing lack of thereof, I would say. Yeah. But that does not excuse the Cüneyt Çakır and the VAR guys or whoever made the decision not to give us the penalty on Vida or Nkudu to just, basically f us over.
Yeah, absolutely.
But due to that, I was kind of confident that whoever was going to get assigned to this match, which happened to be Ferhat Aydınus, was going to do the job, so to speak, to make sure that we wouldn't be too upset and kind of soothe us like a little baby, basically. And I think even Ahmet Nur Çebi said
Evran and I reported at the end of the last episode that he had gone to the TFF with his complaint and all that stuff, So, yeah, something was coming back for sure, But so going into the match, I guess I'll talk about the lineup really quickly. Because Burak was out, Umut Nayir was starting up front. Maybe the only real surprise, Diaby was playing on the right wing, and Nkudu finally got a start on the left. Adem Ljajic in the number 10 role. Again, we saw El Neni and Atiba in the midfield, in the back of the midfield, I guess we could say, with Domagoj Vida and Victor Ruiz back again, with Caner Erkin and Gökhan Gönül on the flanks, and Loris Karius in the goal. Any thoughts on the lineup there? I mean, really, there was no surprise, I would say, honestly, especially given that Burak was out. I don't think anyone was surprised to see Umut Nayir.
I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that Nkudu started. I did not think he would start because I just thought that from some of the stuff that Abdullah Avcı has said in the past, I thought he was probably gonna ease him in a little bit. But I was happy he started. And didn't Adem Ljajic start on the bench?
No, he started in the game.
Okay. Because there was some talk about him not getting a start, I believe, which I was kind of upset about. But then it's been by this. It's already been.
It's been a while, yeah. No, fair enough.
So yeah, I don't. The mindset bringing me back is not 100% working.
Fair enough. No, and I think it'd be easy to forget because Ozan would come into the match and make a big impact. I mean, I will say that I think Ljajic. I mean, everyone was really poor in the first half of this match, but Adem Ljajic sort of settled in, and he played the whole match, right? So. pretty good. But yeah, let's get into it and jog Kaan's memory here a little. I have just recently rewatched the highlights of the match, so I can finally be the informed one, and not. I'm usually the one sort of fumbling around for the info. So I'm proud of myself for doing my research today. But so yeah, this game got kicked off, and it was pretty much a nightmare for us. Even though it should not have been at all. Nadir Chifchi got himself a yellow card and then immediately a red card. It was a bit mysterious. We were just talking about Firat Aydin was coming in to rig things for us. I think we can all assume something was said that triggered the red card after the yellow. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was a farce of a red, but surprisingly, I've seen a lot of Galatasaray Fenerbahce fans say, "Oh, that's a normal red card." For me, it was. I think in the 11th minute of a match, I don't think you do that. Also because of the fact that, I mean, look, if he really said something terrible, then okay, you basically can't just ignore it as a referee. But I honestly don't think it was that bad. Probably, I don't know what he supposedly said, but I think you need to put yourself in the player's shoes for a moment there, because I think that.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I feel like especially Turkish society is very puritanical about like the language people use and curse words and stuff, and it's for me like. It's too much attention paid to something that's really like. Does that really impact the match in a way that needs to be clamped down on?
You need to keep in mind that he got faulted, really. I think Domagoj Vida had a dangerous high boot on him, and then he got the foul called against him. So that's something that I can... you have to keep in mind when you're playing for a small team, a smaller team, with all due respect for Gençlerbirli, when you're playing for a team like that and you go away to Fenerbahce, to Beşiktaş, to Galatasaray, you know that you're playing in a difficult environment where the referee is probably going to, give the 50-50 calls quicker to the home side than it is to you, and that's a frustrating thing. And I think then if you have something that which blatantly is, look, this is a foul on the guy, and then it doesn't get called, I can see how that can get very frustrating really quickly.
And on top of it, at this point, Gençler has played the much better game, and they're really attacking, and I think they're looking for that kind of payoff that they've maybe earned. And so he's probably especially disappointed to have that called against him when they could have used a free kick outside of the box there to sort of galvanize the momentum they'd put together against Beşiktaş at that point on the road, as you say, with all of those conditions. So tough,
100%,
tough for sure. But anyway, even after they go a man down and things look terrible, to be honest, Beşiktaş continues to be terrible, well past the red card, and just, I think it was 11 minutes later, in the 23rd minute, 12 minutes later, Floyd Aite for Gençler, their midfielder, scores, and Beşiktaş goes down a goal at home, a man up. So that's not promising. The goal was deflected. Karius probably lets it roll out of control.
Yeah,
spills it a little too much. The save in the first place was nice, to be honest. But there's two parts of the save itself, and then what you're doing post save, kind of.
And I was kind of harsh on Karius there, because I think it was a combination of, oh my god, I can't believe we're going down against 10 men again. Because, remember it happened a couple of weeks ago against Kasım Pasha too. And just, the frustration of the back-to-back losses. And then you expect, at that moment you expect, it's less of being disappointed in Karius as an individual, more in the team as a whole, that, look, I expect the team to be 100% focused on this.
Before this match started, not after going down a goal like that.
Yeah, and to put this match away beyond any shadow of a doubt, you need to see a reaction. And I kind of felt like the team fell flat in the opening minutes, and then you get that lucky almost red card where I was kind of upset about just the fact that they gave it. And even the fans at the stadium, they booed as the teams walked off at halftime, they booed Firat Aydınus for that first red card that he gave. So I don't think you'll see that too often, where the whole crowd boos the referee for a red card to the away side. I honestly can't remember a single time.
And honestly, I
talk
a lot of crap about our fan base, I think, often, and how irrational we are about certain things. But so credit to us on that. I think that's a sort of classy gesture. Even,
100%. I mean, I remember Trabzonspor going to Galatasaray and getting a ridiculous red card. Remember when Salih Uçan picked up the yellow card that the ref dropped, and then he showed it to the referee, and then he got sent off.
Yeah.
And
that was funny. I love that. Fans, that was so hilarious.
Yeah, but I think our fans would act with more class and would actually boo the ref. And what do Galatasaray fans do? They just start chanting "Ole, ole" as they are beating nine or eight men who they needed those red cards to beat, mind you. So I think there's a difference there.
And you jumped the gun, actually, before we even got to the half. Yasin Pelivan would get himself red carded as well. It was it was probably a red card. This one, I think, merited
100%.
it. First was called a yellow card, though, and they actually went to VAR. This was remarkably responsible, and for me, this is where the whole making sure things don't go against us really goes into play, because I don't think we get the benefit of the doubt for them to go back after giving a yellow card to find out that it was in fact a red card offense. So I was sort of pleased by that, although I'm weary because I don't know if we get that call every time. And this may be just to satisfy us.
The kind of thing. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. Like, this was 100% the correct decision, and you don't even bat an eyelash at it, really. But the question is, would this have happened if it weren't for what happened a week prior? And this is why I like VAR. And why I am a big proponent of it, because of stuff like this. I think stuff like this needs to be nipped in the bud. I think tackles like that do not belong on the football pitch. Look, sometimes shit happens. It's wet. You can slide through a little bit per accident, or you just time a tackle poorly. But that's part of the game. And if you take that risk, then you take a risk to take a red card. I think this is 100% what VAR should be used for. But then we see, like, for example, a couple of remember the Denizli match where Isaac Saki basically almost broke Diaby's ankle and doesn't even get a yellow card, and then the other guy just stomping on Janner's Achilles heel. There's two moments there which are both dark red cards which did not go to VAR. So I mean, you'd expect this to be this decision to have happened either way. But honestly, if you can go back and look at the Denizli game, where we had two very big moments where it was dark red cards where they didn't even check VAR, then I honestly don't know anymore. And that's one of the big
everything. Yeah. Like the rules are so blurry nowadays. No, you're right. It's true.
It's always been like that in Turkish football, where there has been zero consistency in officiating, and it kind of feels malicious. And I really hoped, to my naivete, I hoped that VAR would change that, but honestly, it hasn't changed things. It has moved the controversy to a different point, where before you still had the plausible deniability. Oh well, they didn't see it.
But now we're starting to get like doctored images by official Twitter accounts. I'm like, we've reached a new low. Like where you have to skirt the truth even more, dirty. Yeah. We'll see where this all goes.
I mean, now you can't plead ignorance anymore as referees, and it only makes it worse because it only makes it seem more malicious. And I do have to say that very often, even with VAR, sometimes it's just difficult. But there's just blatant stuff like this where there should be no comment. And they even to go back to the Cüneyt Çakır penalty position on Vida. Actually, the head of the referee commission, Zekeriya Alp, actually made a statement on that. He had a big press conference the other day, and he actually talked about this. He said, "Look, I agree, this is a penalty. For us, this also looks like a penalty. The conversation that happened between Cüneyt Çakır and the VAR ref did mention to Cüneyt Çakır to come take a look. Cüneyt Çakır said no, because this is a how do they call it? A physical duel, but in Turkish they call it ikili mücadele, which means one-on-one battle, basically, for the ball." and then the VAR referee just spineless apparently, but what do you expect from Mete Kalkavan, said yes, you're right. So yeah, I mean, if it's that easy to pat away,
exactly. That's not really like an institution, is it? They're just there to.
The difference, the difference, I think if this would have been a handball, I don't think it could have been ignored. Where here he can say, okay, it's a physical duel between two players. When there's a handball on the Robocho thing, the referee has to go look.
Yeah. Because
the intent is kind of taken out of handball these days when it comes in the penalty area, and especially with shots on goal for sure, it's kind of taken out there. The intent doesn't matter anymore. I'm not quite 100% clear how that works with crosses, because, well, quite frankly, they haven't properly clarified that. But yeah, I mean, it's just still feels like we got by a double standard, but whatever. Let's get back to this.
As we tend to do, really. But yeah, so at the half, I mean, so even still, there were maybe almost even 10 minutes with all the extra time, where we were now 2 men up, and still, I think Gençler looked kind of the stronger side, to be honest. But so at the half, we would get a sub, finally. I mean, I guess you can't expect it in the first half. But Ozan would come in for Diaby, who was really pretty bad in the first half. I mean, he was on an island again, but whatever. With Umut Nair, you really need a little more support than what Diaby provides from a wing position. So anyway, Ozan comes in and the whole tactic gets sort of flapped around a little bit. But immediately, an impact. In the 49th minute, just 4 minutes in, Domagoj Vida on a beautiful back heel from Atiba. It finds Domagoj Vida, who puts it in with his head. At first, the defender kind of clears it, in quotations, off the line, but it's like really, 4 feet past the line already. It's a clear goal. They try to pretend like it's not, but they blow the whistle, confirm that it is a goal. Beşiktaş has equalized 1-1. And Atiba Hutchinson has assist number 1. That's a bit of a prelude there. Do you recall this goal, Kaan?
Yeah, I think I recall all of them. Yeah, this one, I didn't think it was a clear from the replays that I saw, but, I figured, whatever.
Yeah, it was pretty well over the line. They gave us a few angles that made it clear.
Okay.
But so from there, things look better immediately. It's rare we get to say this, and it's very welcome for me anyway. Ozan made an immediate impact, connecting things, linking the midfield. The formation change probably helped a little again. Also a little desperation. Perhaps Abdullah Avci finally laid into these guys at the half. Who knows? But still, about 10, 11 minutes go by with Beşiktaş pressing, but not really seeing the result. And then again, in a flash of Atiba magic, in the 60th minute, it's like Gençler is clearing. They send the ball upfield kind of haphazardly. Atiba connects with that on a volley. So off of a Gençler clearance, he connects with it. One touch, slams it upfield, like perfect, like on a line drive, up along the wing. Nkudu gets on the other end of it with his just amazing pace, which I just can't get over how much I love it. And then in another thing we haven't been able to speak much of, beautiful touch by Nkudu, lofts it over the keeper into the goal in what will be a goal of the season most likely. Much beauty involved on each touch there. Plus the significance of it, giving us the lead, having gone from a goal down to now a goal up. I can't say enough about this goal, honestly. For me, it's definitely the goal of the season thus far. If another goal comes around that's sort of more important but less aesthetically pleasing, I'll take it back. But so far, man, this was a beauty. Comments, Kaan?
No, it was. Like I said on the Football Alterca podcast, I am a huge sucker for lobs, for a proper lobbed goal. For me, this was. I absolutely adored this goal. It was. It was fantastic. I loved seeing these types of goals.
And so again, now Atiba has assist number 2. 2 minutes later, Victor Ruiz gets himself a yellow card. Unfortunate. The guy's struck with injuries all the time. Now he's going to be risking.
I don't even think it was a yellow card, honestly. It was,
I feel like this is one of those ones that are like, okay, we've helped you guys a bit. Now we're going to take a little bit back. But it didn't really slow down our roll by any stretch. 14 minutes later, another goal. And again, this time Atiba I don't know what's come over this guy. He was like it was a master class as far as a central midfielder rather than defensive midfielder. So he's mastering a new role at 36. But a beautiful little pass, like a chippy pass, again kind of line drivey, right onto the foot of Ozan, who takes one nice dribble of the ball and slots it into this kind of corner of the goal. Kind of old school Ozan as far as the finish goes. Great to see. Deserved, I think, as far as him finally coming in, playing well, and then getting the sort of the stat line to underline the performance. 3-1, Beşiktaş. Now, of course, one must recall that we are 2 men up, but still, that's
very important.
That's we are. You can't take away the master class that we've been getting from Atiba thus far in this match, regardless, because these moments of beauty don't depend on whether there's 9 or 11 men. Those are beautiful regardless. But obviously the defense being in disarray and all that.
It does depend, I think, because of the gaps that
he has
obviously
space
opens.
to work with, and
but they were. I mean, this one in particular, this was a fantastic assist. I thought, this was one of those. I can't believe it was Atiba that kicked. I know. That's something you'd expect from Adem Laic or from Caner, or I mean, this was a fantastic one.
Honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, that had to have been Nkudu, because you just saw from a distance, whatever, who's black, and so I was like, oh, that must have been Nkudu, because that was such a beautiful cut. And then you get the close-up look, and it's holy crap, that's Atiba. What the hell? Like, how did he even do that? Like. That was, stunning. Just what a match he's had at this point. 75th minute, Gençler gets a yellow. They make a few subs. Umut Nair gets a yellow in the 77th minute. Then they get a yellow, I think, in the sort of tussle. 83rd minute, Tyler Boyd comes into the match for Nkudu. So good to see him. Sort of inconsequential playing time here, but.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd get on the score sheet, because it was against 9 men. I was just hoping, let him get on the score sheet, but I just feel like we weren't really. I was disappointed in the fact that we weren't going for a monster score.
We weren't pressing for
we weren't pushing for it, and that's something that other clubs do sometimes. And I really felt like we should have done that, especially given the fact that we have a very bad goal scoring differential, so I really thought that we should have gone for a 5-6.
Well, and so we did get the fourth in the 91st minute. It was on a corner. Caner Erkin, not at all like a threatening one, but Atiba headed it in at a crazy angle, and so I mean, again, just miraculous. This one, I don't even know how he did it. To be honest, it was such a tight angle, and it just sort of plopped in over the goalie or over the keeper. I hate saying.
Yeah, and it had to be
exactly. So 1 goal and 3 assists from Atiba Hutchinson, and the final score is 4-1. But I mean, we were certainly not like pressing for that 4th goal, and it really came out of nowhere. So your point stands. But that's how it would end in just 4 minutes of extra time, despite all those.
When did we score the 3rd goal? 73rd or something?
Yes, that's right. The 73rd minute.
So basically we had 20 minutes to just pile on and score 2-3 more goals, and we just we just had no interest really. I'm disappointed by that. Like, I really think that's a missed opportunity to improve your goal differential, to boost your confidence a little bit. At the end of the day, you're up against 9 men. I expect more, quite frankly. 4-1 for me against 9 men who have been down to 9 men since like halfway the first half. It's just meh. It's not really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the only positive is that it was really 4 goals in a half. Because I mean, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I fully agree. It doesn't it shouldn't. The excuse that we were just terrible in the first half, even though we had a 2-man advantage, doesn't really make one feel too comfortable, or it shouldn't. Yeah. But you do bring up an interesting point. So in the table, let's talk about that a little bit. So going into the halfway break, Beşiktaş ends in 5th place. So again, obviously 17 matches played, 9 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. Only a +5 goal differential, so 27 goals for and 22 against. So just think, we win this one by 3, and we only have a 5 goal differential in total. So it's really been very lackluster, especially as far as goals scored.
Yeah, and it's all been because we got a lot of 1-goal wins, I think. We kept quite a few clean sheets, surprisingly. You wouldn't think that of this goal differential. But then we had a couple of matches that we lost, which were just rather big margins. You know, we had the 3-0 against Sivasspor. What else did we have other big margin losses? I'm just trying to think. Oh, we had a 4-1 against Trabzonspor, 3-1 against Fenerbahce.
It's been a kind of like when it rains it pours type of season.
Yeah, we had some especially the Trabzonspor and the Sivasspor matches were just really bad in terms of, you know, big losses. And I think we just didn't have enough I don't think we had big wins. Otherwise, we had a 1-0, with lots of 1-0s and you know, 1-0 away at Konya, 1-0 at home against who was it? Whatever. And then we lose 2-0 at home to Malatya, so that's another -2 right there. So yeah,
I mean, at the end though, it's not a disaster as it could have been after the sort of minor collapse towards the end of this half of the season. But so 5th place in itself doesn't sound good, but we're only 1 point back on Fener, 2 points back on Trabzon, 3 points back on Başakşehir, and that brings you all the way up to 2nd. And then, of course, the real challenge at this point is Sivas in 1st place. And, of course, you did not hear Galatasaray in the mix. They are 2 spots behind us in 7th. And just 3 points back, though, so they could catch up fairly easily. One shouldn't get too comfortable there. Alanya is also just 1 point back, and then it drops off after Galatasaray, so there's a little bit of safety there. But all in all, that's where we stand at the midway point, and that's something.
Yeah, I think we need to be honest. I mean, after the first, 5 games, if you would have told us, you'll finish the first half of the season with 30 points, I think we would have all been pretty happy with that. And honestly, if you look at the previous 2 seasons, the season before we had 26 points halfway.
26 last year with Şenol Güneş. As an established manager with a fairly established roster too, I feel like
30
that's
points
way
the season
less
before that.
forgivable than what we've seen with Abdullah Avcı, with a new team, in a new system, with almost a new roster in many aspects. So yeah, I mean,
well, new system. We have to say that he did go back to the old system, though.
I don't want to acknowledge it. I'm hoping we're moving somewhere.
No, I don't. I don't think he'll be trying that anytime soon again, honestly.
Bummer. But so yeah.
There were a lot of positives in the new system that he was trying, but also it was also weakening us. And I think even Adem Laiç said it recently that in the beginning of the season he was playing in not his natural role, but the most important thing is the team, but that did hamper his performance. He also acknowledged that his performance afterwards was better, but not necessarily great. So he also had some. It's not like he said, "Look, I was great afterwards" or anything. Once I was shifted back to the 10, he didn't say that. So Laiç said some good stuff actually. But yeah, no.
But so I mean, it brings us to an interesting stage now, right? Because you could So I mean, the news generally coming in is fairly dire financially. The TFF has come in with strict rules as far as what clubs can spend to because they gave money to pay for all the debt and everything, and they're trying to control finances of it. So Beşiktaş has been afforded essentially 2 million Turkish lira, I think, right? Not euros.
Yeah.
To spend, which is obviously nothing. And the logic would be that you'd sell in order to spend, and then you can have more. But we don't have much to sell, if we're going to be honest here.
Yeah. But you also need to keep in mind that we didn't sell anyone in the summer, and we bought quite a lot actually. I'm just quickly going to get that up here, but I think we spent over 15 million in the summer. So what you okay, we're not under fire, because I see a lot of tweets like, well, UEFA say we're good to spend because we're not under financial fair play anymore, while Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Trabzonspor are all under financial fair play, and TFF isn't saying anything against them. But what people need to keep in mind is, look, UEFA monitor over the course of a year, and just left our financial fair play. We don't have to break even anymore on financial fair play, but they aren't like communicating right now. Like, I think if UEFA would take a look at our books right now, they would also say, look, you don't have anything to spend right now. You already spent you blew your load already.
Yeah. Sell if you want to buy, sell. Which I have no problem with that, honestly. I think.
Yeah, me neither.
We did spend a bunch, and we shouldn't really need that much anyway. We could probably find some sort of.
I think the problem is that we can't really cheap out on what we need, if I'm quite honest.
I agree. I totally agree. No, I can think of a few scenarios where we could sell this and maybe, cut some corners here and there, and then sort of carve out just enough to spend on a decent enough kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know if it's even really worth it. Because then it means, like, all these guys who have finally settled into whatever's happening with the club now, leaving, and then kind of causing more upheaval just so that we could bring in maybe one player who potentially, doesn't settle. Like, what if Burak is healthy?
Just for the record, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent 15,850,000, so almost 16 million, and we sold for 2 million. The only player we sold was Gary Medel.
So a net of like 13 and a half. So
yeah, so we're like minus 13,850,000 in terms of that. So now some of our fans are thinking, well, look, why are Galatasaray able to do transfers? Why are Trabzonspor able to do a transfer? Because they got Ndiaye. Why are Fenerbahce, who haven't done a transfer yet, but who are talking about transfers, why would they be able to do transfers? But you need to keep in mind, Fenerbahce sold Elif Elmas for 16 million over the summer, and they spent roughly 16 million. So they're minus 200,000.
I got Champions League money, and you can't think of it as them only allowing us to go 2 million in the hole. They're really allowing us to go 15 million, considering we've already gone 13. So yeah, it is what it is. All I can say is, like, if there's a scenario where someone wants to swoop in for, like, I don't even really know, Enzo Rocco, maybe Jermaine Lens, something like that. Okay, we can talk. But I don't know. But
the problem as well is with Victor Ruiz. He's a great player. I think we saw it really early on, but he's been injured quite a lot. If we sell Rocco now, we don't really have a backup anymore.
Means
who are we going to play?
Rotation, and that's the last thing I want to see. Quite honestly,
that's exactly. What
I would almost rather keep Enzo Rocco and just like maintain. I don't know if what we can get in is going to sort of have a net positive for what we could potentially lose.
I wonder I don't know exactly how the TFF thing works, because, like, for example, with financial fair play, it was the transfer limitations were, look, you can get what you spend. So if you spend, you can spend what you get. So if you spend 5 million euros, you can. If you get 5 million euros for a player, you can spend 5 million euros. But that's strictly financial fair play. I think the TFF thing I mean, just going purely on logic, I assume it works based on, look, transfers budget, but your total budget, I think, is based on your total budget. So also wages are important. So I think if we get rid of a couple of players, like for example, let's say we loan out Tyler Boyd, who's on like 1.1 million, that's 550,000 of wage budget freed up for a player that we could potentially loan. So I think let's say we because there's serious talk of Tyler Boyd being loaned out, Antalyaspor, Kayserispor, Ankara Gücü, Denizlispor.
Allowed to buy him back, they would want to.
Yeah, they would loan him. I don't think anyone would be buying because, like, if we look at these clubs, Antalyaspor are under financial restraints, Kayserispor are under significant financial restraints, Ankara Gücü are not going to be able to buy anyone. Denizlispor is the only club I would think that would be able to buy him, but I don't even think that we would be willing to sell him because I don't think any of those clubs would be willing to pay what we paid, which is 2.4 million, and I can't see us sell him for a couple of 100,000. I don't think. I think that would be stupid anyway because I think you can probably sell him to the MLS for 2 million or more. So yeah. Anyway, I could see a guy like Boyd being loaned out and maybe a couple of other guys. I'm not really sure who, but that's the thing, like you said before, like who do we sell? I think the only players that have significant value are players that if we sell them, we need to replace them. If we sell Domagoj Vida or if we sell Adem Ljajic, even though Adem Ljajic has not had the best season by any stretch of the imagination, if you sell Ljajic, you need to bring in a worthy replacement. And bringing in a replacement at the number 10 position is going to be expensive if you want a good player. We got Adem Ljajic for 6.5 million, and honestly, for what he is capable of, that is not much of a... That's not a lot of money for a 27, 28-year-old player in the prime of his career, international, all that kind of stuff. And then, for example, you see guys like Guilherme being named. Look, I can tell you right now, Guilherme is a great player, but if we bring him in to replace Adem Ljajic, that's just going to be Rodrigo Tabata 2.0.
Man, I think even worse. As a Tabata fan...
And Tabata... Yeah, Tabata was a fine player. I think Guilherme is a great player for Malatyaspor, and I think he's a fun and great little player. But he's also a type of player that, despite the fact that he gets a decent amount of assists and goals, he's also one of those players that I remember vividly. I think it was the Fenerbahce game this season from Malatyaspor where he missed like a massive one-on-one opportunity. I'm not saying that Ljajic doesn't miss those types of chances, but I'm just saying.
And Guilherme's not so young anymore either. So.
Yeah, Guilherme is like 30 years old already, I think. So I mean, look, what are you doing then? And you're selling a really good player that maybe isn't finding his form. I think in part due to the team around him for. A lesser... I mean, I think Guilherme is one of the best number 10s in the league, but with all due respect, he's one of the best number 10s in the league because he's playing for Malatyaspor.
And it's kind of like, saying it's like the 6th largest military in the world. There's a big drop-off after 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very similar in Turkey. Being one of the best number 10s in the world is or in the Turkish league is great in theory, but like outside of the big clubs, there's a big drop off. Honestly, and I don't. It's
like saying Adis Jahovic is one of the best strikers in the league.
Would you want him? Yeah, exactly. But
would you want to
imagine the protest if he was the big?
Can
signing?
You honestly but could you honestly believe that he would perform at Beşiktaş, Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, or even Trabzonspor?
No.
Do you think he will have those same numbers? Of course not. That's like Zafer Birol back in the day for Konyaspor.
Well, and so let's save some of this because we're gonna have to, have some content during the break. There's still at least I think 2 more episodes before we get into real football. But yes, so let me briefly take a moment to talk, to break down the fourth wall a little bit. We're gonna have an episode upcoming in the coming week where we're gonna do our decade review. We hoped it would sort of align with New Year's, but we're lagging a bit. But so we're gonna finally have our big episode where we talk about our top 11 players for the decade, where we talk about some of our favorite moments from the decade, obviously relating to Beşiktaş. And so look out for that. Please hit us up on our WhatsApp with your top 11s if you want to say something with your favorite moments. On Twitter, of course, we'll put out some notes in the coming week to remind you guys. But yeah, hit us up with all of your top 11s and your favorite moments of the decade. Kaan, do you have any comments on that? There's a little more news to talk about as far as we have a couple friendlies coming up, and then I want to talk about the next match. But
yeah, I mean, I would just like to ask people, look, if you're gonna go for team of the decade, try to keep longevity in mind a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think like we just finished recording our decade review for Football Turca, and like I think if it's a player that you associate more with the previous decade, like for example a Fabian Ernst.
I was about to say Fabian Ernst is the best example of it.
Maybe leave him in that previous decade and go for players from this decade, Even though Fabian Ernst still had a season with us in this decade, but,
No,
we all remember him for coming in midway through the season in the 2008-2009 campaign and helping us win the league, being our Junti.
Alongside Yusuf Šimček. Don't forget the man, the long-haired, the Jesus-like, the talismanic figure on the left.
The Messiah.
Wing, on the left. The Messiah on the left. But so anyway, last note before we hand it over to you guys for comments for the decade episode. We do have some friendlies scheduled now. January 8th, very early, so 9 a.m. here, so it's like, I guess, 3 p.m. or something over there. But we're playing Mezőkövesd Győri, a Hungarian side, I can assume, just from the name. Any comments on the friendly there?
No, I just hope nobody gets injured and that Burak and Kudu and Ruiz, if they play, I just hope those guys can get some decent match fitness out of it. I just really hope that those guys who we missed early on this season, or who, like Kudu, who just didn't play much at Tottenham and just, I think that one of the things that Abdullah Afshi said is that we don't want to overextend him because he hasn't been playing that much full games in recent years, so he needs to be eased in a little bit. I just hope those guys can hit their full form, and I just hope that Burak and Ruiz and Nkudu, especially those three, stay spared of injuries.
Exactly. Maybe we don't even risk them. And if there is a transfer, who knows? But if there is, that'd be a good chance to get their feet wet. Also of note, on the 10th, also very early, Beşiktaş will be playing against Altinordu, which is slightly better competition, you would imagine. But also, we don't have to, A, try to win, and B, risk guys who might be injury prone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one more note I want to make, by the way, because I've heard some people say this in recent weeks as well. Like, why don't we have a board member who spends some money? I think they had a meeting today with the TFF about the budget, and it came out that we only have 2 million Turkish lira to spend. Now, honestly, I don't think the TFF will monitor it the same way that the UEFA would do. So I don't think that the TFF would actually mind if a board member decides to float the bill.
Of course not.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, if they did, I think that would be opening a big can of worms, because then they have to start looking into the whole Vedat Muric deal.
Yeah.
What happened there? In regards to Fener paying 3.5 million, but in reality it was more like 6 million, because the Koç holding also started sponsoring Rizespor after that, which was a significant euro or dollar value, whatever, plus whatever. Anyway,
yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right.
So I don't think that the TFF are going to want to open that can of worms, although you never know when it comes to Beşiktaş. They do have some double standards,
and Fener as well. The other end of that thing.
But I do expect, honestly, we can be sure that there will be a move. We know we need a move. At least we need probably 3 moves at least. Yeah. But we need especially a striker.
Yeah, big time.
And I think you can be certain because of the situation, the financial situation. But I do believe that after this meeting with the TFF, where they were probably hoping they could get some wiggle room, I do believe that some people in the board will probably, if needed, say, okay, you know what, I'll fork out 1 or 2 million to loan whatever this guy in, or whatever, just enter
maybe
random.
like the Kagawa deal last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's hope so, like man. Let's definitely hope so.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's even a kind of big name, we can get someone to sponsor some big money to help out, like a Balotelli, for example.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be
doubt
noted
it's
that
gonna be something like that,
Serdar
though.
Adali, right, posted that picture of him going to, was it Germany, or I was confused because like the end of the road was like Milan. So I was like, oh, we're going to Milan. So I was like, no. The next stop.
But Adali isn't in the.
Not Serdar
isn't
Adali.
in the
Sorry,
board
who
anymore.
was it? Who was it?
Erdal Toledo, maybe.
Maybe. I don't remember. There was someone on the board.
Oh, I didn't see it, so I missed that. So where did he post that on? Like Twitter,
I think
Instagram?
it was Instagram story, and it was like a picture of a highway, and so that's why everyone thought Balotelli was legit. But I don't know. Who knows? We shall see. But so yeah, final note. We'll be back for real. Our next legit match is going to be January 15th against Büyükşehir Belediye Erzurumspor, or let's just call them Erzurumspor.
Was it in Erzurum first or in Istanbul?
In Erzurum first. At the
Okay,
Kazım
really
Karabekir
cold.
Stadium.
It's going to be really cold in Erzurum on the 15th of January, I think, and that's going to be tough.
Could be one of those
Don't
snow
underestimate
matches.
that.
Could be one of those snow matches. I kind of look at, everyone likes a snow
Maybe
match.
not necessarily a snow match, but I do believe that Erzurum is quite high altitude.
Yeah,
So,
their logo has mountains, I think.
Yeah, so low air density or whatever that, or high air density. What is it? Plus,
low.
yeah, plus
Lower
cold.
pressure, low air pressure.
So it could be
exactly.
really, it could be a really tough match. So let's hope we don't stumble there, because I hope we are gonna have a decent run in the cup this year.
I agree. I'd like to maybe even win it, honestly. And then the first match of the upcoming season is going to be against Sivasspor on the 19th.
Yep. So we immediately have to be firing on all cylinders, and that's also why it's important that the transfers that we do need, that they don't that we make them. Even if it's just one transfer, we need to make that one.
Ideally, again, like before those two friendlies, even, so that they can really play with some of these guys, and get used to what we're trying to do.
The sad truth is that it's probably going to be the final week of the
very end, like after Sivas.
yeah, probably.
But so that's it. I think that's all we have to really say this week. Happy New Year, of course. Thanks for tuning in. We're almost at our 100th episode. It almost lines up with our decade episode. That would have been a perfect, conflagration. I don't even know what the word is here. Coordinating of things. But nonetheless, we will be back with our big decade episode. Please submit your team of the decade. We will put out reminders on Twitter and elsewhere, whatever we got. Kaan, you want to take us out?
Yeah, what Sinan just said, go hit us up on @Eagles_podcast and let us know, or you can hit us up personal at Sir_Rights_a_lot, or @Razarian RAZZERIAN, or @Beşiktaş_int. INT. And you can just let us know what your team of the decade is, player of the decade, goal of the decade, transfer, your favorite transfer of the decade, whatever, anything. Just let us know your highlights of this past decade. So 2010 until 2019. So basically the 2010-2011 season, start there until this season, I guess. I don't think there'll be much highlights from this season. But it's just let us know.
Love Umut Nair.
Maybe preferably hit us up on @Eagles_podcast for that kind of stuff, so we can keep it all in one place.
Exactly.
Easy.
Yeah, we'll try to funnel you there if we can.
Let's hope for a great 2020.
And I have something important to say. Let's go Beşiktaş! Got to do it. That's my first of the year. Man. So, friendly, 8 a.m. or whatever it is, 9 a.m. here on the 8th. Do you have any idea where we're going to air that? Is it going to be aired? I hope it's not one of those damn YouTube things.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I really hope that they do that, because I really hope they air it on our YouTube channel, because they're still trying to get. They're still, go and subscribe to Beşiktaş on YouTube if you haven't already, because they're trying to get up to 1 million. What they really need is focusing on, they should be focusing on
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.